Source Nation, join us now for Family Mix Mondays with licensed professional counselor Jaketra Bryant. Tune in as Jaketra shows the different dynamics that make up family. Whether you represent the nuclear family, single parent, extended, grandparent, or blended family, Jaketra has tips and advice designed to strengthen your family structure. Source Nation, here is your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Good evening, Source Nation. I'm your host, Jaketra Bryant, and I want to welcome you to Family Mix Mondays, a show where I just discuss breaking cycles, communicating, restoring our families, and just talking about those conversations that are needed amongst parents to their children, parents to their youth, parents to their tweens, to their young adults, and just really just bridging that separation that's been occurring within our parents and our family members. And so tonight we are continuing our series of parenting and dating, and I'm really excited about this one. This is a little twist with it, but the lady is such an awesome person who's going to speak from personal experience, and not only that, she's going to speak about what it looks like to have a healthy relationship, some of the effects of it when you don't, how to talk to your child about your inner relationship. And remember, we're talking about parenting and dating. So not our kids dating, but what it looks like when we are dating so that our kids can actually have healthy relationships, have healthy boyfriend, girlfriends, have healthy marriages, and they first get it from us. Yes, we are the models. Yes, 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 we are the models. And I don't want you to think otherwise. I know people live by that cliche, do as I say, not as I do, but that doesn't work. No, it doesn't, unfortunately. Kids and young adults and tweens do as you do every day. So why not start doing something that's worth them watching? Why not start having healthy relationships where you are loved and you are in something that is building up yourself, building up the family, not causing divides, not causing continuous divorces or continuous moments where people don't even know what love looks like, and so they go and they look for it in other people, that and only to find themselves in the exact same cycle that you watched as a young girl from your parents. So why not stop it? And so I'm excited about this series that we're finishing, and I'm excited about the things that have been discussed, from what does it look like to be in a domestic situation, how far it can get, to looking at your value within yourself, looking at the brokenness within yourself so that you can actually work on that. And so we have Dee Simone, and Dee Simone is going to really shine some light on so many angles tonight. And I just want you to really tune in and go call somebody so they can join in and just really be blessed by this. And so before we jump into that, I want to stop and thank our sponsors, and they are Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Paper to Film Productions, Revolution Meals, Renovations, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Blend to Blend Juice Bar Boutique, Urban Grandstand Digital, and New Covenant Praise Worship Center. And again, yes, we have Dee Simone. This conversation is going to be awesome, so I don't want you to miss it. I want you to go grab some more people so they can tune in, because we need to really break a lot of cycles that are happening when it comes to just the start of what we model love looks like. And so stay tuned, and after the break, we'll have my guest, Dee Simone.
Source Nation, stay tuned. You're listening live to Family Mix Mondays with your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Source Radio Network is just one of the many platforms that is used to fulfill dreams of our listeners and create a purpose that will impact the lives of our communities, cities, and the world. It is often said that great things will happen when a group of driven people work together to accomplish one goal. We're giving people the opportunity to have a voice, translate words that haven't been heard, and paint pictures that no one has seen. Source Radio Network is fueling your life's purpose. How can you listen? www.blogtalkradio.com/Source Radio.
days of August, and I remember the first rain in June. I remember the first leaves of autumn, but there ain't nothing like my Decembers with you. Wake up about 7 o'clock.
Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Family Mix Mondays with your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Welcome back, Source Nation. Again, I'm your host, Jaketra Bryant, and you're listening live to Family Mix Mondays. Before the break, I say that we are doing our series of parenting and dating. And then we have an amazing guest who is going to shine some light on the areas of dating as a parent. What does that look like modeling? How can you talk to your children about you dating? What does love look like? What does it look like to date as a single mom or a single parent? And we're going to really dive into some things. But before she joins me, I just want to tell you some things about her. This does no justice to who she really is and the things that she stands for. And so a little bit about our guest, Dee Simone, is, although an attorney by trade, Dee Simone is your dating and life coach extraordinaire. She's an author, speaker, dating expert, and certified mediator. Dee also writes dating advice articles for online publications and created Dee's Dating Diary. And you can find that at www.deesdatingdiary.com to provide women with valuable dating advice that they can use in their everyday life. And so she's going to give you so many different ways on how to connect with her. And I do believe we have our guest in the studio. Well, hello, Dee. Thank you so much for being a part of Family Mix Mondays in this series. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes. Thank you so much again for just agreeing to do it. So we've been in this series called, like, Dating and Parenting, and just kind of like how you and I talked a little bit, like, off air and stuff just about it, just a series where I just wanted to really help our parents and help our young adults and all those listeners of the Source Nation family just really understand what it looks like to model a healthy relationship and what it looks like when you're in one and how that impacts you, or if you're not in one, and just all kind of factors that go into the cycle that keeps this going. And so that's our goal today. But before you and I jump into that, just tell Source Nation anything that you got going on that's new that they can join in, and just more about who you are.
Well, I am an attorney by trade, but I became a dating and life coach, motivational speaker, and I just released my very first dating advice book. It's called Picking Up the Pieces, Rebuilding Yourself for the Love and Relationship You Deserve. You can find it on Amazon, BarnesandNobles.com. I also have a Kindle ebook version and a Nookbook version for all the people that love the e-readers out there. So it's really a great transformational dating advice book that's about building your confidence and self-love, and basically recognizing and getting rid of those bad dating habits and flawed belief systems that actually keep women single or land them in bad relationships. So it's really not your typical dating advice book, but it's something that every single woman needs to read, doesn't matter how old you are. So I'm really excited about this book, and you can also learn more about my book on my website, yourdeesimone.com.
And congratulations about the book. I love the title. And I think that is something excellent and a good segue into what we're discussing. Because if a parent is listening, which we hope they are, if a parent is listening, then this is probably not their very first relationship. They probably have been hurt, or something has happened, or maybe they're not with the father or the mother anymore. And so they will be picking up the pieces. And I think that is important for the title. Love it. So let's jump right on in with our discussion of dating and parenting and dating, vice versa. The topic kind of goes hand in hand. I wanted to start with just some questions about what the parent may model when it comes to dating. And so what types of effects do parents' relationships have on their children? I mentioned before with the introduction, as we have lived by this cliche model, do as I say, not as I do. But what really happens is we do as others do all the time. We do as our parents do.
Right. For the most part, children are going to emulate the relationships that their parents had, even if it's dysfunctional, because what they see growing up is what seems normal to them. And, of course, what seems normal is what is going to be accepted by us. And then what children don't learn at home, they're going to fill in the blanks with what they learn from the streets and on TV. And neither of these provide the positive information kids need to hear. So really, your parents' relationships are going to affect the quality of the relationships that you have as an adult.
Yeah, I agree. And I've often said it before. I've kind of said it in this series more so. And as I was thinking of the idea for this series, it came from the fact that I work at this university. And at this university, I have a lot of clients who come in, and this is their first time being in a relationship that they've been broken up with, whether that person was cheating, whether that person was physically being abusive, whether that person was, like I just had one young lady this week coming in, and for the past 6 months, her boyfriend has been beating her. And it got to the point, like, literally he bit her ear. And so I was like, wait, back this up. And the other part that was tripping about is that she's 19 years old. She'd been talking to him since 17. He's another 19-year-old. He is physically abusing another teenager as a teenager. And so she said to me, well, I thought it was going to get better. I held on to hope because I watched my mom beat my dad in their marriage. And I watched her stay, and her hope it got better. So I thought the same thing was going to happen with me. I was hoping it was going to get better. And so it was a do as I do. And then so she went to her mom later after being arrested because she finally, snapped and went off. And her mom was like, why would you take that? I don't like it from your dad, so why did you take it? So another do as I say, but not as I do.
Right, right. You have to lead by example. I mean, as a single parent, you have to make sure that you're an example of what healthy, loving relationships look like. And this is what's going to have the biggest impact on your children more than any conversation will. So if you don't lead by example with your kids and you're telling them, what you're doing is not okay, they're going to pick up that contradiction, and then they'll struggle to reconcile what's right. And just like you're saying, in many cases, they're going to reconcile it the wrong way and think that, yeah, you can make that work somehow. It is all right somehow because my mom's doing it. It worked for her some way.
Yeah, and they've been married, right? They've been married all these years. And so, just like kind of things is, what the types of effects, what it has on it is not only do they begin to imitate what you do in your relationship as the parent or dating someone, but they also live under this notion, like how she was saying, don't do what I do, why are you putting up with this? So she's holding to this hope. So now she has a false definition of what faith and hope looks like.
Right. Very true. Very true.
Yes, yes. And so are there any other effects besides kind of just kind of imitating something unhealthy that the parents' relationship can have on their children?
Well, it is going to completely just, skew your view of the dating world. You're just going to tolerate a whole lot more than you really should, ultimately. I think that is the most important effect, and just because people aren't necessarily talking about it doesn't mean it's not happening. So you could also have a false perception of how prevalent that behavior is that you're witnessing.
And so one other thing, as you said that, what came to my heart was not talking. So not only not talking about something that's unhealthy in the area of domestic, but not talking about relationships, period.
Yes,
and so,
yes. You have to talk to your kids about what healthy relationships look like, what's appropriate, what's unacceptable. I think, single parents should actually ask their kids what they think a relationship is about so that they can gauge their children's understanding and then go from there to clarify or correct what they think. And then when your daughters are old enough, you need to talk to them about signs of abusive men because the information is out there, but it's not being disseminated to young women or any women for that matter outside of, counseling or therapy after a woman's gone through an abusive relationship. So I really think opening that dialogue, having that conversation is so, so important because, what you don't talk to your kids about also, they're going to fill in the blanks, with what they learn in the streets and on social media. And that's not the positive information that these kids need to hear, right? It's not going to give them tools or resources or information that's going to equip them with the ability to have healthy, loving relationships in the future. It's going to enable or, perpetuate that cycle of the bad relationships, unhealthy relationships. So it's really important that you're the one that controls your, children's thoughts around dating and relationships and men as opposed to letting the media and other people that you don't even know, give them that information.
Right. And I think, I don't know what happens with this topic. This is probably as high as sex, a topic about sex, where people it's there, but I don't want to talk about it because my children are going to go do it. And so, I think it just has this negative thing. So now we're left with people wondering about where babies come from, left with, what does this even look like? But they're pregnant. Then we're left with people inside of unhealthy relationships or not knowing how a relationship and love looks like because no one had a conversation.
Yes. No, exactly. If you don't have the conversation, you're just leaving the door open for anyone to put anything in your child's head. I heard of a girl when she was young. He was trying to get her to have protected sex with him, and she was worried about, unfortunately she was only worried about pregnancy and not STDs, and she told him she didn't want to get pregnant, and apparently he told her, don't worry, you can't get pregnant unless you also have an orgasm, so as long as you don't have an orgasm, you won't get pregnant. Now, obviously, me and you know that this is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
And that is the furthest thing from the truth. But when you don't have conversations with your children about these things, like I said, now someone can come along with some crazy story like that, tell that to your child, get her to have unprotected sex with him, and then wind up pregnant. And you think that you're saving your child from something by avoiding the conversation, but you're anybody. So I think it is an uncomfortable topic. I mean, no one can deny that. I mean, whether you're talking about it with your children or some other people, sex and dating can be, a weird, funny topic to address. You have to push past that discomfort and just have a conversation, because it'll be a lot more awkward to have a conversation of how are we going to take care of the baby that you're going to have. How are we going to deal with STD that you can't get rid of, and now you need to, maybe be on medications for the rest of your life. That's going to be way more awkward and way more uncomfortable than just addressing these things on the front end.
Right. And I really hope that's something that, like, our Source Nation family begins to pick up on, the importance of it. I don't know when we ever got into this thing of what goes on in the house stays in the house, or just living in a day where it's just like, well, if I don't say it, then it's not happening. I don't know where we've gotten to that point, but it doesn't work. And so I really hope conversations like this continue on, and books like yours continue on, where people are real and transparent, that these are everyday situations happening. So let's help some of our Source Nation family members, our parents, and maybe our teens listening, our young adults, or some of those people listening that want to go back and ask their parents about relationships. And so how can parents make sure that their children have healthy relationships when they grow up? What do you think that's something that the parents need to make sure they're implementing in their own dating life? What can the parents do to make sure, based on their own healthy relationship?
Well, first, like I said, it's going to start with, opening the lines of communications and letting your children know that they can come and talk to you about any questions that they have or who they're dating, so that you can ultimately be in a position where you can, just one day randomly ask, oh, hey, how are things going with you and so-and-so, and they'll gladly open up. And that's a way, once those lines of communications are open and your child feels comfortable opening up to you, you'll get to learn more about their relationships. But when you have a very, closed-off parental style where your children feel uncomfortable bringing certain things to your attention, then when bad things do happen, they're not going to want to come to you. They might go to a friend, but who knows if they're going to get the right advice. If they are being abused, you might not find out about it. So it's just really important that you just establish that relationship of being able to speak openly, and then you can be more active in their relationship life as well, and they'll be more willing to come to you for advice. And I think also, as parents, I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, obviously it depends on your child's age, but I don't think there's anything wrong with giving your children good books about having healthy relationships with men, like my own book, Picking Up the Pieces. That's something that, you don't have to worry about going into as much detail, because, they could read about this stuff and connect with some of the personal stories, as opposed to feeling like, oh, here's my parent just telling me this, that, and the other. So I think that's a great thing to do. Don't be afraid to give your children material to read, whether it's pamphlets on signs of abusers, whether it's a book on dating and relationships, even just giving your child a book about building their self-confidence, understanding their worth, and increasing their self-love. That has profound impacts on people, because from what I see, a lot of the terrible relationships that women are in, a lot of them are taking place because there's issues of lack of self-worth and lack of confidence at the root. And because that's not addressed, they wind up in these awful relationships time and time again. So definitely help your children grow their love for themselves, develop their self-respect and self-love, because then there are certain things that they just aren't going to let in their life.
Those are some excellent points. Like, as you were talking, I just kept on thinking about all of my students who come in, and the root has been self-worth and value, and just a low self-worth of themselves and not knowing. And the young lady that I mentioned about who was being physically abused by the boyfriend that bit her, I was telling her, I was like, you don't know your value, do you? And she was like, oh, no, I have good self-worth. Like, I know, like, I have nothing's wrong with my self-esteem. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we ended up having to have this conversation about the fact that, like, I don't know if that's true, because, like, you're in an abusive relationship and you're taking these things, but yet you're saying, I know myself. Like, both can't happen. Both won't happen. That's not how self-worth looks. That's not how a value of yourself looks.
Right, and I think you actually bring up a great point about, some girls and women thinking that, oh, I love myself. Yeah, I have great confidence. But there's a problem out there, and this is with both men and women. A lot of us are mistaking confidence and arrogance. A lot of us can be arrogant. That does not mean that you're confident. Being arrogant is just being boastful. It's very superficial. So you might walk around there like, I'm pretty, I deserve to be treated like a queen. But then what you're really accepting is much worse than what you should, because deep down inside you're not really confident. You don't really love yourself. You're just displaying arrogance to seem like you're confident, but there is none there. So I think that definitely touches on what you're talking about. These girls think they're confident, but they're just being arrogant.
Yeah. And so, Source Nation, if you want to be a part of this conversation, the number to dial in is 619-924-0933. That's 619-924-0933, and press option 1 for questions and comments. So, Dee, I wanted to shift gears a little bit, and so I want to be able to talk about, all parts of it. I'm a single mom, and I'm a single mom who is currently in a relationship, who has started dating. But I did things a little bit differently. One, I'm on the psychological end, so I kind of know the effects, unfortunately, and fortunately. And so it helped with my relationship, but it didn't help the fact that I still had to pick up pieces. It didn't help with the fact that all those other things. And so I want to help some people who are single parents, single moms, single dads who want to date, but yet they have children who are aware and old enough to notice that, hey, there's this new person in my life, or you're leaving, you're dating, you're getting dressed up. And I want to help them have those discussions and help them kind of begin bringing that into their lives. And so what you say would be some things that single parents, moms and single dads, would have to do maybe differently than maybe some of the other people when there's a child involved when it comes to maintaining or having this healthy relationship?
That's a very good question. Let's talk about getting ready for the date. When you're going on a first, second date, I don't to tell your child you're going on a date. I think, it's probably better that you say you're going out with a friend. At the end of the day, you don't know where this date is going to go, and you don't necessarily want to, maybe get your children's hopes up that they're going to, have another daddy soon when, this might just be a one date and you're done. So I think, when you just start dating someone new, you don't really need to let your kids in on all those details because you really don't know how it's going to play out. It's better to just, keep it as vague as possible. And like I said, just let them know you're going out with a friend, and that's it.
Yeah. And so what? You said but? Did you?
Oh no, go ahead.
You said something. Okay. And so I often, as a woman, my son is 10, so I've also been a clinician the whole time he's been here. And so, but I often have to have conversations with single women about the difference as dating as a single parent. And so what do you think the difference is, and what's happening that some of us are just not getting that? That there is a difference between, hey, I'm a single woman, so there's no other obligations, and I'm dating and I'm looking for this mate, or this mate is looking for me, versus I'm a single parent.
Right. Well, as a single woman, you only have to look out for yourself. Make sure that you pick someone who's good for you. But as a single parent, you also have to make sure that you're choosing to date someone who's going to be good for your children too, right? So, unfortunately, there are predators and child molesters who intentionally prey on single moms to have access to their kids. So you have to make sure that you're not inviting a man into your life who's going to verbally or physically abuse your kids or, God forbid, molest them. You have to be really careful because pay attention. Pedophiles will dote on your children and create the illusion that they're establishing a close parental type of bond when they're really just trying to get close to your children for the wrong reason. So, single parents really just need to remember, I'm not just dating for me anymore. I'm dating for my kids too, and I have to protect them through that process. So it's twofold. You have to consider if this person is a good partner for you and for your children, and then you also have to make sure that you're protecting your child throughout this throughout this dating process. Like I know that there's some people out there that give advice saying moms should quickly introduce their kids to their date to see if there's a good fit because, you don't want to get too serious and then, there's a problem or the kids don't get along with your date. I don't agree with that. First of all, you don't need to have a bunch of men coming in and out of your children's lives. That's going to have a negative impact on them, especially if the kids are going to develop attachments to each man you ultimately break up with. And second, you really don't know who you're dating in the beginning. And the last thing you want to do is expose your kids to the different kinds of crazies that are out there in the world. I don't know about you, but I know I've heard so many nice dating stories that the thought of letting your kids see some of these things play out in real life is really scary.
Right. I know, like, for me in the dating world and just being a parent, I had to be mindful. In my earlier stages, I made lots of mistakes by allowing someone to meet me at my house. They may not have come in, but they met me at my house, and my son may have went next door for the babysitter or something. And him being very early, it was a very earlier stage, and him seeing, oh, this didn't work out. Lasted 4 months, now it's gone. Lasted 2 months, now it's gone. And him seeing that. And so I made a conscious effort by the time he got like 7.5, 8, that I was like, yeah, no more. Actually, I want to say it was 2012, so 5 years ago, and he's 10 now. So within between 5, 6, 6.5 area, I was just like, yeah, that's it. Like, he's old enough to have questions. He's old enough to recognize what this looks like, and I want to display a certain thing as a woman, certain thing as a mother. And so I started then I didn't talk to him about dating, but I did make sure that I stopped having people come over to the house, whether it was for a movie or anything. And if somebody happens to come by, then I thought maybe I liked them, and then I had to learn from that too. And then I realized I had to do a lot of conversations with my son to clean things up. And so it got to the point I was like, you know what, no one's coming around at this point until we are discussing walking down the aisle and we are ready to meet the kids. And so when I started talking to him more about what dating looked like, and I was able to have a humbling conversation about that there's a process of dating. You're getting to know someone. You see if they like your favorite food, see if they are into the same things that you're into, if they love kids too. And I began telling him that there's a process happening. So instead of him kind of taking his negative view, I was able to really reshape it. But I had to, take a step back to do so. Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a journey, because if not, I was going to be in the same cycle of everything that we're trying to undo with a lot of people. Yes.
Yeah. But it's great that you could actually, talk to your child about it, because I think most women, would do the same thing and never actually get to the point of having that cleanup conversation,
Mm-hmm. So I started letting them know, like, hey, this is what dating is. And so I know you may be wondering, because his father's not around, period, his dad. And so, like, at some point he started, like, other people started questioning, like, oh, is this you and your mom's house? He's like, yeah, it's just me and my mom. And so he had gathered this understanding so much that more so other people wondered. And he was like, so I remember my niece saying, well, when are you going to get a dad? And he was like, well, when my mom finds love. And so then he began to understand that there was steps. I know it was so cute that day. My niece didn't have anything to say. She was like, And so he began to understand that there are steps into place. Like, it wasn't just, hey, bam, here's a dad. It was, hey, there's a couple of steps that need to happen. And I think that also with dating is something that's skipped. So how would you explain, like, maybe helping some parents understand that you don't have to run to the altar because you're 45. There's some stuff that needs to happen.
Right. I mean, yeah, your child has definitely a profound understanding of, what you're looking for than most kids would. I know that it's so important to talk to them, let them know that, like, relationships are supposed to be loving and healthy and have some affection. Me personally, I grew up in a household where my parents did not show any affection between each other. And for me, my initial understanding of a relationship was that it was more of a business arrangement or like a partnership, like there there was no affection. It's just like you come together to have kids and raise them. That's it, like very robotic. Like we just have like a goal and that's it. There's no love. And so, it took me a while to learn that that's not what a healthy relationship should be. So, if whatever you can do, whether it's leading by example, having a conversation with your child, you need to do whatever it takes to let them have a positive, good understanding of what relationships are supposed to be like,
And so speaking of that, like when it comes to the women, so we have some women and men, and they're dating, and it may be getting serious. And so when should single moms introduce their kids to the person that they're dating? So it is moving, and so what's your take on that?
Well, I think that you can introduce your date to your kids when you have decided to be in an exclusive relationship. You're at the point where, it's a serious relationship and you guys are heading towards marriage. Before that point, you really are just, exposing your kids to the plethora of men that you might date, and like I said, have that like revolving door of men just coming in and out of their lives. So I definitely think it's good to wait till you're more serious and know that this is going somewhere, and this isn't someone that's going to be in your kid's life for a few months and then never again. So really, it's hard to give an exact time frame because it just varies, and it depends on how quickly you're getting to know this person. Because say someone that is dating and you see each other once a week as opposed to 2 or 3 times a week, you guys are, the person that's the couple that's seeing each other more times a week is going to be progressing a little faster, getting closer a little faster. So, as opposed to seeing someone once a week, if you're seeing each other once a week for 2 months, that's, that's, you haven't really seen each other a lot. But if you're seeing each other several times a week for 2 months, you're definitely in a much closer place. So you kind of just have to, gauge where you are and kind of go with the flow and kind of see what feels right. So that's going to mean that you're going to have to consciously date and be very consciously aware of what's going on. And, at the time while you're dating, it's so important. It's so important that you attention to red flags, because too often, whether you're a single mom or not, as women, we see other flags, we tend to make excuses for them or write them off, and then it blows in our face later, and then we're looking back saying, ugh, saw the signs of this, like, why did I leave it alone? Why did I just ignore it and push it to the back of my head? So as a single parent, I think it's even more important for you to pay attention to red flags, because these are things that are not just going to affect you, it's going to affect your children too.
It is. I agree. I think as you were talking, I was thinking of oh man, so it sounds like we would need to help our parents figure out how to recognize those red flags. And I would imagine, I haven't read your book, but I imagine just by the title of Picking Up the Pieces, that would help us identify the areas of brokenness in us or the areas of repeated patterns of that. So is that pretty similar to what your book may be saying?
Oh, I have a whole chapter on red flags, and even dedicating a whole chapter, there's not enough time in the world to address all the red flags that are out there. So, yeah, I do address red flags because it is important, and we often, a big one, a man doesn't call you or you don't hear from him for a while, and here you are, like, oh, I haven't heard from you in a while. What does he say? I'm busy. And women, we have this habit of making excuses for men. So instead of him returning our call like he was supposed to, or taking us out like he was supposed to, or just being present in this, courtship or dating, we push the excuse further along. Yeah, he is busy. I should be understanding. He has a busy job and da-da-da-da. Yeah, I'm not going to feel bad that he calls me once a week.
Right.
It's really important that I address red flags, because there's just so many flawed beliefs around some of these excuses and things that happen with men, that I just wanted to just have a solid chapter that was like, no, you see this, that's a red flag. And so the sooner that we can accept red flags for what they are and not rationalize them away or make excuses for men, the the sooner we'll be in a position where we can pick the right person for ourselves and our children if we have them.
Yes, I agree. And so I think that's going to make a difference, kind of back to our very, very beginning, when the cycle is continuing. So the cycle is a cycle. It's just what it says. It's a cycle. So if we're back in a cycle of picking these same people over and over, and we're ignoring these red flags and we're dismissing certain things, then you decide to marry that because now you're tired of being single. I'm tired of all these things. I'm getting older. And then now you've married that. And then now your children are watching this. And I think some people don't really see that that's how it has happened because they're not thinking about, like, the impact it has on that.
Right. I mean, especially when it comes to dating, it can feel, we're very subjective. It just feels like this is what I'm going through. This is what's happening to me. And when you have kids in the picture, it's easy to forget that, like, oh, wow, while these things are happening to me, though, there's actually residual effects that this is having on my kids, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, once
you
recognize that, you can take control of the situation and be that filter of what's getting passed along to your kids.
Yeah. So what about, like, while a parent is dating, and how should the flow be when it comes to making sure that love is going to look the same, physical touch is going to be, so I know you mentioned about, like, just kind of looking at marriage as, it must be this arrangement. So how can people date to make sure that they are emotionally present, physically getting their needs met and all that, to make sure that the children do get to see love and affection?
Right.
What kind of things do you suggest there?
Kind of like I said before, like, you have to make sure you are consciously dating. That's one of the biggest flaws I see with, dating today. Women, we're not being conscious when we're dating. We're just going through the motions, but we're not really paying attention to what's going on. So once you start being conscious of your actions and your date's actions, you actually, put more effort into saying, hey, you know what? I want my kid to see what if affection looks like, so you let them maybe see you and your boyfriend hold hands. Little things like that. When you're being conscious, you could say, hey, I want to make sure my kid knows that this is okay. It's okay to hold hands, or it's okay to, give a peck, kiss here and there. And obviously you're not going to have sex in front of your kids. So you know what to, right, like, to an extent, like, we know what's good to expose our kids to and what's not good. And once you're just more actively aware and present when you're dating, then you can really say, hey, maybe this isn't something I let my kids see, or, maybe I do want to let my kids see this. I think one example is, like, arguing in front of your children. Yeah. I know that's probably one that, a lot of people flip-flop on. Like, should I make sure my kids don't see me arguing, or should they see this argument, because they need to know that disagreements do take place? And I would honestly say that whether you should argue in front of your kids would really depend on you. I think it's great for children to see what a healthy disagreement should look like. But then this also assumes that we're all having healthy disagreements, right?
Right.
So really, you're going to have to be honest with yourself here and come to terms with your fighting style. Do you fight dirty? Do you fight fair? Do you speak at a reasonable voice level, or do you shout at the top of your lungs? If you recognize that, if you recognize that you don't normally have healthy disagreements, then you should avoid disagreements in front of your kids at all costs, because they will internalize you and your boyfriend's behavior as normal and acceptable. Now, I know it's hard to be real with yourself sometimes, but admitting that you have a bad fighting style is okay, because then you're in a position to improve it. So if you know you don't have that good fighting style, you avoid having those disagreements in front of your kids until you can get to a place where you're having healthy disagreements. And then now you've exposed your child to an aspect of a relationship that is prevalent in every relationship, and you showed them a healthy way of getting through it. So your disagreement obviously then should be solution-focused, right, instead of problem-focused. And then you can show your kids that, yes, you have having a problem doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You figure out solutions, you compromise, you communicate, and everything's golden. It's not the end of the world. And so that's an area where you could have a positive impact on your kids' future relationships just by what you're exemplifying yourself.
I love that. Because, again, I'm on this end where I'm counseling all these college students. They're in their first boyfriend and first girlfriend, and they met them in college, and two backgrounds look the same. And so I do. It's so interesting, like, how the trend just kept coming in my office. And it was down, like, if I was to discuss confrontation or conflict or just communication, they equated it automatically to conflict. They're just like, well, I don't want to talk about this, or this is, no, it's going to lead to this person doing this and that. And I realized that people had a negative persona about conflict, and I would mention communication, they would instantly think conflict. And then when I would trace it back, it would be because their parents were fighting. It would be because, the boyfriend down the hall is fighting with the other girl, and it would immediately be this. And so you're right. I think that is a really, really good point to say, hey, if you're not there, then either know that you're not there so you can go seek help, or buy awesome books like yours to really work on all that stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, because you need solutions, or you just re-enter the same relationships until you really work on something, in my eyes.
Yeah. And along those lines, actually, I know someone who grew up seeing their parents fight so much that they are just completely averse to any conflict. So they just avoid having disagreements at all costs, which causes more problems in their relationships because nothing ever gets addressed. So I think that's on the other extreme end of the spectrum where, it's not like you're resembling like the blowout arguments your parents have, but now you avoid it at all costs, and you sweep everything under the rug. Nothing gets addressed, and there's just always underlying issues in your relationship. So it is definitely important to know your argument style, know your fighting style, know if your style is to avoid it altogether.
That's a really excellent point. No. And so that, again, continues where this is where it's carried on, and we still don't have a healthy relationship. So as we kind of close up and just kind of really wrap the conversation, what would be some particular things that maybe our people who are interested in dating, we don't want to scare them away. We want them to know there are some healthy relationships that you can seek. And so what do you offer, I guess, in your book, or what do you just offer to some of the people that you service with some of the dating advice as to how they can begin entering something that's good and making sure they are good if they want to start dating?
Right. Well, I think it's so important to take your time when you're getting to know the people that you date. So often we're so eager to get a boyfriend, be married, and just have that, cookie cutter family life that, we don't really take the time to get to know the person. Pay attention to the red flags, see if this person is really actually a good fit for us or our children, and we rush things along. I say if you're a single parent, that whirlwind romance where you meet and you're married some months later, that should never be your reality. You are going to be best served when you take your time and slow down the relationship and make sure that when you do get to that point of marriage, if you get there, that you're taking that leap with someone who's great for you and is great for your kids. Now, also, I think it's important to point out, red flag, abusive men and men who really just want to get close to your kids try to move the relationship along as quickly as possible. So make sure you really do slow things down so that you can pay attention to that and any other red flags that come up. So that would be my first important tip, yes.
Yes. I think so. I think at some point, because of the pieces I needed to amend and work on myself, like when I enter this relationship now, that's like one of my best ones I've ever entered, he had to slow me down. He was like, why are you running to the finish line? He was like, there is a process. There is timing that needs to take place. And I had to go back and check myself with it. And I realized that I had been driven by, like, my age. I'd been driven by my kids getting older. I've been driven by all these other factors that was actually causing him not to be able to see the authentic part of me and me see the parts of him that are necessary so that we can sustain the relationship. And so that was a good area for me, for him to be able to recognize that what it was doing and how it was going to allow us both to get to a place where we both felt comfortable and got to know one another. And so that was more favorable, because I had been in other things where people they wanted to call me their girlfriend the next week. And I thought it was cute because I was like, oh, but no, it was not.
And you'll find, like, really it's up to us women relationship, because for the most part, like, if you just let it be up to men, like, they'll be sleeping with you the night they meet you, you know, and just, you know, it'll be very different. So it really is up to pace it out and recognize, like, what speed are we going at?
Yes. And so I agree. And so, oh, yeah, go ahead. You had something to add?
And the other thing I wanted to say, I don't really think this is a big issue, but I definitely think that single moms shouldn't write off men who also have kids because they think it might be too much, you know, too big of a household. They really don't want more kids or whatever. But I think these men, if they're men who are active in their own children's lives, they'll better understand the obligations and challenges that single parents face, and you might develop a deeper connection with another single parent. So I thought, you know, it's not something that I think is a big prevalent issue, but I think it's important to point out that, you know, you really might meet your match with a man that's in the same situation as yourself.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point. So many people do write people off, and they have this other vision of it. So I think that's a really good point to bring up. Glad you brought it up. So as we are running out of time, I do want to allow Source Nation to get in touch with you. Get that book. Just follow up with questions. Tune into your dating advice column. So how can they do that?
You're definitely going to want to go to my website, yourdeesimone.com. And there you can buy my book, you can access my blog, you can see my upcoming events, see if I'll be in a city near you doing a book signing. You can also follow my dating advice blog, where you can get great dating advice every Saturday evening at 8 p.m. My dating advice blog is beesdatingdiary.com. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter every day. I'm tweeting or Facebook posting a really great dating advice article. My Twitter and Facebook handle is Dee's Dating Diary, pretty simple. So, yeah, definitely get my book. It's so transformative. It's going to change your life, and it's really going to help you attract the love that you not only want, but you truly deserve.
And again, my book's name,
Thanks. If any of you that forgot the book name, it's called Picking Up the Pieces, Rebuilding Yourself for the Love and Relationship You Deserve, and it's on Amazon and BarnesandNobles.com.
That's so amazing. I need to make sure I pick it up, as I am definitely up in my reading list as I'm preparing. And so this has been really amazing. I do thank you so much for being able to provide so much insight from a couple of angles. And so, and that was really my motive with it. I just really wanted everyone to feel a part of the conversation and be able to find themselves in it. And so I do thank you so much for just being able to be a part of the series of Dating and Parenting and just shining your expertise and your knowledge and your passion for it, just getting everybody back in a healthy relationship.
No, thank you so much. I really think that this is a much-needed topic in the dating world, and I'm glad that you wanted me to be a part.
Yes, thank you. So Source Nation, our guest Dee Simone has shined some light on our dating and parenting, and I really hope that you picked up some points with looking at the red flags, getting yourself together by picking up those pieces, how to engage conversations that are very, very necessary to talk to your children when you actually do finally get involved in a dating part, and just being able to fight fair and knowing that communicating is very healthy. It's a solution-focused. So I picked up a lot of excellent points, and I really hope you did too. And so I want you to continue tuning in with our series. This is the end of our series, but next one I have a really great one as well. And so our sponsors are Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Paper to Film Productions, Revolution Meals, Renovations, Meet My Type Matchmaking, Blanton's Land Juice Bar Boutique, Urban Grandstand, and New Covenant of Praise Worship Center. And I can be reached for any further questions or comments at jabryant1913@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at JaketraB, and website www.b3mentalperformances.com. So thank you so much for tuning in to Family Mix Monday. See you next week.